What you're describing is essentially the end product of Aeonix, and that's a conversational interface that acts as a universal gateway, I guess pun intended, but as your gateway to Web3. So instead of needing to connect your wallet to all of these different decentralized applications and figure out this arbitrary and very complicated knowledge of when to do things, how to do things, security best practices, and everything that's required to successfully navigate this, you can simplify that all into a natural language interface where simply by just talking to the bot about what you want, what you're looking for, you can go through the entire process of identifying signals, putting together trades and indexes, and ultimately executing those trades.
Comrades, welcome to episode 2 of this new episode. And we already have guests. And you can see here Evan and Magnus. They're from Dragon Labs. And for those of you that remember, we had this game, Mortal Kombat, and that happened, well, roughly 9 months ago, maybe a little bit longer. And that was also created by Dragon Labs. They have been busy. They have been very busy. We teased on our X today the Qbot, and that is created by these very handsome gentlemen, and they are a guest today to introduce that to you. They have done a lot of work in under a week to get this AI trained for us, the Quamrats, and there's a lot more where that came from. They're going to be asking for your feedback on that, so make sure to not miss out. And that will be a part 2, if I remember correctly. And yeah, we're gonna go a lot deeper and see what else is possible. So thank you so much for being here. Also to Evan and Magnus, and obviously Tim.
Yes.
Anybody that wants the floor, please.
Yeah, actually, it wasn't 9 months ago. It was 18 months ago.
Was it 18 months ago already? Oh,
yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
Man.
I just looked it up. It was 18, 19 months ago.
Wow. So I had the seasons right, but I was, yeah, well.
Yeah.
How time flies.
Yeah, it really does.
That's pretty insane.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty insane. Yeah, it's 2025 already.
Actually, I can give us kind of a quick timeline on how we got here, just to go through it. But first and foremost, thank you for having us. Thank you, Arno. Thank you, Tim. Hey, everyone. It's been a while. This is Evan.
Yeah.
And some of you may recognize me or remember me from interactions throughout the quant community. And if you do, you may also remember that in 2022, we started Dragon Labs as a research and development hub. And initially, it was more about things we just saw interesting, things that we wanted to learn more about. We didn't necessarily know what the applications would be until we got further into it. But at that stage, what we were starting off with is tokenization research and getting into these like digital asset business models, learning about how dynamics work in Web3 compared to other types of ecosystems. And that's where you last saw us. We had put together the first phase for Rescue Pals. We'd released the Rescue Pals game beta. We had the initial verified credential achievement system around that. And then we took a version of another game we built and actually made it into a quant community game. So this was only up for a couple weeks. I don't think a whole lot of people got a chance to try it out, but it's actually a comprehensive arcade game that is an interactive experience through all of the quant research. And the goal was to introduce more people to this information in a way that's maybe more accessible or easier to understand. So as we've come back today, we've actually done something else in that capacity, but from a different direction. So before we dive into what we've done, I just want to take a couple moments, run through what it's taken for us to get here. The journey started in 2020 to begin this whole process of research and development. And as I shared in 2022, we officially established Dragon Labs as an organization to formalize this process. Later on throughout 22, we began our first initial research and development into both digital identity systems as well as AI systems. And initially, it was just from the product and the architecture side. It evolved later on. Now, as we entered into 2024, we put together what's called the Framework for Sustainable Token Economics, or STE. And it essentially is an 18-month process of on-chain and testnet experiments that have reverse engineered a set of first principles that allow us to have far more efficiency, control, and predictability when it comes to creating token economics models. And that's actually something we've showcased within the ONIX token, and something we'll be able to dive more into later. But as we got past that stage and built out the framework for that, we then built out essentially a modular digital identity backend. So the whole ecosystem that powers Aeonix, digital identity and achievements and everything throughout that is actually extended throughout the entire Dragon Labs application stack. And it was in the creation of this AI layer, Aeonix, that we saw an opportunity to show people what we've made and make something that provides value to the community. And that brings us to here with Qbot.
Yeah. Thank you for that timeline introduction. And now that I think back, like, man, that it's been 5 years and from the beginning, and then like only a year and a half almost to what you achieved now, which is pretty crazy, because we spoke about a couple of things before the show and also in private. And man, you're making waves, and I think that is pretty cool to see and hear, right, from a comrade. That's how this began, right? To follow people from the community and to see where they're going, what they're doing. So yeah, man, amazing and so cool that you're giving back. In this case, not with a game, but with a bot that we'll get into deeper. And we have Magnus here. Magnus has been silent until now. Maybe you can tell a little bit about yourself and maybe what you do.
Well, I got to. By the way, hey, hello everyone. I got to know Evan around, I think, also 18 months ago, where we then started to come together to try to develop a cool combination of AI into Web3. And throughout this 18 months, we have been doing numerous research, all from how to use things like embeddings models for AI search, developing sophisticated front ends that are integral to Web3 experience, and also finding out maybe how we can do certain concepts that will help gamifying the Web3 experience to make it more engaging and fun to do. In addition, we have also gathered a lot of technical knowledge over this past 18 months when it comes to, for instance, in this case that will be very relevant is AI agents, which is pretty much what Qbot is based all around. And with this, we have kind of built a foundation, almost like a template that we can develop and apply more of these agents further down the line, with of course with customization, so that they are more catered to a specific niche need or something, like in this case Quant. But of course there's also ways to do it, such as interpreting human language to do certain tasks, such as automated trading, and also, well, knowledge gathering for people as well.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, what you said, right? You guys created a template, and that also made it possible for you guys to actually customize this bot specifically for this purpose in under a week.
Yes, actually, I mean, it's all based on work that we've been doing for months, but this specific one here is already kind of based on this baseline template, which has now become Qbot. And I think it would be very nice to also highlight that this is not based on ChatGPT, which is almost what every single other AI agent is based on. We've been experimenting with different open source models, and we've been trying with Llama, and now we've been trying with Mistral, which is it's from France actually, so it has a more Eurocentric feature. But I found, at least personally, that Mistral works excellent with this. And the best part is that, considering it's open source, you can deploy it on your own machine, so it becomes in a closed system. You don't need to send any data to the Mistral team. you just keep everything for yourself. So it adds another layer of security for everyone, where they keep their own data.
Right. And is that actually possible for everybody, or does it require so much compute that it's kind of useless? Or am I an idiot for asking this?
The model we're using is Mistral Small. To get very technical, it's 24 billion parameters. But apparently, from the research I've done, 24 billion parameters, you can run it on an RTX 490. And I know RTX 490s are not, peanuts, but it is very, very realistic for a normal person to run something like that on their own machine.
Yeah. Not for me. I'm still at a 3080, so
1820 over here.
No, that's cool, man. That's cool because obviously, the more AI becomes a thing, and the more the big companies are hosting that, and it's all in the cloud and stuff, the questions arise, right? Like, what happens with my data? What happens with my questions? If I have XYZ that I want to get simplified and I throw that in there, will that end up in some Chinese server room?
Yeah.
Right?
There's actually a movement I've noticed nowadays, which are trying to reverse the global transitioning over to cloud architecture, where they are more focused on doing in-house deployment of their infrastructure. Because even though it's very convenient with cloud and everything, over time it becomes much more expensive. So, for instance, if you're going to rent, say, on Google Cloud, GPU to run your LLM on, it will cost. So they don't have RTX 490, but they have something similar. I don't quite remember the name, but it's quite minimal, and it costs around almost $600-700 a month to run, which is within a few months you can already buy your own RTX 4090.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's also another thing, that good development that happened around in February. You remember when everybody was losing their mind when DeepSeek released their, was it R1? I think it was, which proved that you can run a very sophisticated LLM on still expensive but much cheaper hardware. So I think that's actually a movement that a lot of companies are now trying to attain, is to make LLMs cheaper to run. So in this case, you can run a very sophisticated model, sophisticated enough that it suits our needs, on an RTX 4090.
And there's something we want to emphasize there too. Like, it's in this local instance that we're actually able to create what we call private AI. So yeah, if you are doing a business application with an AI bot, your data is almost certainly sensitive. So to have any type of client information or business data or anything that your bot is connected to, if that could be compromised in any way, whether it's turning into training material that is retained within the bot that could be accessed elsewhere, or anything else from like a data breach perspective, you just open up a ton of risk, and it starts to put you in a situation where you really can't even consider putting these types of tools in your business. So those types of issues are already becoming obvious as we've seen this first wave of really accessible AI tools go out into the public and start to gain traction in business use cases. And that's really why we're here to demonstrate this. Is yes, it is built off of a version of our AI model, and we're showcasing it to show how you can put together these private parameters, these controls for specific knowledge limitations, and also at the same time showcase how it can connect to other types of systems without having to go the traditional route.
Right. Okay. So I think it's time to play around with the bot a bit, if you guys agree.
Please, let's go.
All right. Let's go there. So what you can see here right now is what some people on the that follow our X already seen. The TQS presents the QBot. We obviously removed the URL. This URL, not really sure. Is this going to be available after this, or is there going to be?
This is the production link, and that will be live in perpetuity.
Yeah, it's public.
Right, so that's chat.dragonlabs.digital/TQS. And this is trained on Quantpedia, the
Numerous
overledger.
sources, actually. So it's Quantpedia or the archive of it.
Yeah.
Some tweets that were very relevant, long form tweets from the CEO Gilbert. And there were also, of course, also all the documentation from the Overledger documentation, in
Yeah.
addition to the blog, all the blog posts on the main Quant page.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool.
It's not comprehensive at this stage when you look at something like the entirety of the fundamental analysis for quant. So it is going to be limited by that. And that's kind of in this release is we're inviting everyone to try it out and help us find where those limitations are. And then as we go through updates, we can add additional source content, we can add fine tuning to the model and start to connect some of those pieces that aren't there. But let's go ahead and try it out.
Okay, so the low-hanging fruit. What is Overledger? Overledger is the world's first blockchain operating system that interconnects blockchains and existing enterprise platforms, applications, and networks to blockchain. It facilitates the creation of internet-scale multi-chain applications known as maps. And then there's a reference. Not really getting that. Is that in a link that what we see here?
I think it's a reference to the document. So it should actually provide link as references, but I kind of need to wrangle it more to make it do that all the time. So that's actually just a hash of the document that is referencing. So that's one thing to do. But sometimes you will probably notice that there will be links, and that's when it behaves as it's supposed to do.
Good.
And
so Overledger is also the first. Yeah, go.
It's a 7-day build for this, so
yeah,
have some friction points.
Yeah. So and it continues world's first blockchain agnostic API gateway that interconnects not only blockchain, also legacy networks to distributed ledger technology, provides enterprise grade security, easy to use interface, enabling users to issue, connect, and monitor assets and develop applications on any blockchain without needing blockchain. Okay, let's try this. Can you simplify this even more? Overledger is a blockchain operating system that connects different blockchains and existing enterprise systems, allowing for the creation of applications that can operate across multiple blockchains. Acts as a bridge, enabling secure and seamless interactions between. This makes it easier to develop and deploy applications. Leverage. Great. Tim, anything you want to add to this question or ask a new question? Tim is getting warmed up. Do you see that smile on his face?
Yeah. I was trying it in Dutch. I was just like, I mean, you assume you should
I always
only be able to use it in English, but I was like, yeah, but maybe if I ask it a question in my own language, then what will happen? And it worked perfectly. It started answering. So apparently these language models also do other languages.
I did actually not know that was possible, to be honest, because I would assume it would cause some issues with the lookup. But apparently it seems to be doing a great job of maybe translating the request before doing the lookup. So that's cool.
Because this is Dutch. It says, leg mij eens uit wat Fusion is. And yeah, it's still pretty similar to English. But it's like, explain to me what Fusion is. And it responded in English, but it did cover it. The multilingual
if I share my screen, and you see it starts answering in Dutch.
Really?
Yes, it does.
Okay, that is interesting. Is that because I started off initially in English or something?
Could be, actually. I mean, sometimes that happens if you use ChatGPT too.
Let me see what I play. Give me 1 second.
I'm sorry for the confusion, but I programmed to respond in English to ensure clarity and consistency.
I was playing around with it. So I started with who is Gilbert. I was like, it should automatically assume it's Gilbert Verdian. And then, here it says Gilbert Virtues.
It could be. So you have settings in both your browser and your computer that set like region and language and stuff. So it might be somehow related to that.
Oh, interesting.
And then what is Fusion? And then I asked it, what can you do? And then I started typing in my own language and it works. as
Oh
you can
yeah,
see
okay,
here.
no.
So let's try something a bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Beyond
Yeah,
just asking what things are, let's ask either contextual questions or questions that have to be applied in different ways.
Jarno, you can do it against your
Okay,
screen.
give me an example, Evan, please.
Well, if you think about how this is trained, it's not just the fundamental analysis, but it's also the product documentation, the technical information for the product. So you could ask a technical application question, like how, can you give me an example of how you would use Overledger to solve a business problem or something like that?
You might, if the answer becomes a bit strange, I think the best thing is also to refresh, because sometimes, especially now that you confused it with Dutch, and sometimes it might get a bit confused in giving answers. So best just try and see if this works.
Okay, can you give me an example of how Overledger can help to solve specific business problems?
I think we should refresh it and do it again. So just refresh the page.
Just refresh the whole page.
Yeah.
Yes, turning it off and on again also does work for AI systems.
Overledger is a blockchain operating system that can help solve specific business problems by interconnecting various blockchains and legacy networks. Here are a few ways it can address business challenges: interoperability, proof of concept, security and privacy, asset management, programmable payments, supply chain optimization, regulatory compliance. By leveraging these capabilities, Overledger can help businesses overcome various challenges related to interoperability, security, asset management, and regulatory compliance. How would this work for the Bank of England? Overledger can work for the Bank of England by providing a blockchain operating system that interconnects various blockchains and legacy networks, facilitating the creation of internet-scale multi-chain applications known as maps. This capability is crucial for the Bank of England as it allows for the development of central bank digital currencies and other regulated financial instruments.
So as we're going through this, I can see very clearly the limitations we're hitting are based off of the knowledge sources. So this is information derived from like PR, product documentation, essentially non-technical documentation for the most part. So when you have a technical question and like how you're applying that, I think that's where you're going to see these limitations. So we could come back to this after adding in technical documentation, and you'd find that this answer would actually give a more honed result for how it's technically solving these problems. Now, something you could try too, maybe especially relevant today, what's the difference between Overledger and Quant Fusion?
What's the difference between Quant Overledger and Quant Fusion? The summary: Quant Overledger is focused on interoperability between different blockchains and legacy networks, enabling the creation of multi-chain applications. Quant Fusion is focused on integrating blockchain technology with legacy systems, enabling the creation of hybrid applications that operate across multiple blockchains and legacy networks. Both technologies are designed to address the challenges of interoperability and integration in the blockchain ecosystem, but they do so in different ways for different purposes.
So that's obviously not completely correct or as accurate as we'd want. So again, we see the technical differentiator not being understood, and then that's not being applied into the like abstraction of that. So very easy to fix, and you'll see in a week or two, we can push another update that will absolutely bridge that, puns intended.
I love those puns that were in there. Okay,
I'm
so
glad
this
you
is
appreciate
for
it. We definitely
very.
intentionally put quant puns into the system.
Yeah, I saw. It
I
just
was.
told me that it's Quant believe it can't help me with that.
Oh, and there was. Oh yeah, the thing that I tweeted. There's no confusion about this. Yeah, that is so great having a bot with a sense of humor. Um, okay, so really briefly, and obviously for time purposes, we cannot read and discuss into to everything completely. Um, but this is cool, and I think the community will love to play around with this. You guys have a Telegram group, the Aeonix Telegram group. If you follow the URL chat.dragonlabs.digital/TQS, or from the links in the description, where you can also find our sponsor BYBIT, use our link, love you. You can go to their Telegram group and ask questions there, right? Give feedback and see how we can improve. And I had a question today. Somebody in one of my Dutch groups, why there's not an AI in Telegram yet? Maybe you can say something about that
Well, yeah,
without
there
making
are.
maybe promises. I don't know.
There are. So I've seen a couple products that are in use by a number of different communities. They function similar to like Safeguard and Rose, admin bots that have different permissions to manage controls throughout the system. And then some of them have like passive listening systems where they can summarize the conversations. They also have like reputation-based point systems in a peer-to-peer fashion. So there are AI systems out there for Telegram. I think what needs to be recognized here is the difference between an AI system and an AI system and a Telegram bot is like a day of engineering. It's extremely simple to put any type of a model or an AI product inside a Telegram bot and then have it connect with different functions. And then again, at that point, your integration is just as simple as using Rosebot or anything else. So yes, if you're thinking ahead and reading between the lines, that does mean that it would be very simple for us to take this tool and wrap it inside a Telegram bot that could then be added into a community chat and function very similar to how Grok works. You tag the bot, reply to the bot, and gets information relative to your request.
Okay.
Further, because there's already agentic frameworks connected to this, it actually would be very simple to add in either like automated functions for a did VC social layer, or we wanted to put in any type of like a trade link to QNT. I mean, there's a number of different things that can be added in very easily. So this is ultimately up to the community.
Yeah, we actually went past that from your introduction. I'm sorry for interrupting. You spoke about, and we spoke about this prior to the show as well, that with you're working towards getting your AI so far along that you can just ask a question the way we are talking right now to make specific trades, and it can actually execute those things for you. Is that already a thing, or is that for the future?
Yeah.
I know I'm stumbling through this description because I'm not tech
So
savvy that way, but
what product of Aeonix, and that's a conversational interface that acts as a universal gateway, I guess pun intended, but as your gateway to Web3. So instead of needing to connect your wallet to all of these different decentralized applications and figure out this arbitrary and very complicated knowledge of when to do things, how to do things, security best practices, and everything that's required to successfully navigate this, you can simplify that all into a natural language interface where simply by just talking to the bot about what you want, what you're looking for, you can go through the entire process of identifying signals, putting together trades and indexes, and ultimately executing those trades. And where we're at right now, if you look through the Aeonix X channel, we posted a teaser a couple weeks ago. The conversational interface for the agent is actually done. We can release this in a few weeks with a bit more fine tuning, which only leaves one more step to connect the full automated trade function. So it's definitely something that we expect to release later on this summer in some capacity to the public. However, it
amazing.
also goes in parallel with a lot of the private systems we're designing. So if there is interest from either business owners or people that find this type of technology unique for their particular application, please reach out because it may be something that we could help you with. And it actually may be something that's far simpler than you might have seen externally.
Yeah. That's so cool. Skipping back like 5 minutes to the hypothetical Telegram bot. If you do that, what do you guys gather from all the messages in there? What do you do with the data? How does that work? I'm being a paranoid crypto schnitzel right now.
Yeah. It would be based off of ultimately what the community wants, because this would be a product that we'd be developing with their goals and interests in mind. But knowing that it's all based off of a private AI system anyway, at the most the most it would ever be is data stored in an internal database. However, the system that we've actually built out for social verification uses decentralized identifiers and verified credentials to actually authenticate user information and data without storing the actual secret information. So if you think about how data breaches primarily work, the issue is just because the information was stored somewhere. So it doesn't really matter who or where or how. It's just if it's stored somewhere, it's ultimately can be vulnerable at some stage. So if you're not actually sharing that secret information and storing it somewhere, then there's nothing that can be compromised. You're just
Yeah.
following essentially like this route of trust back to something that was already verified. In fact, like
You're
that's
working.
like your trust triangle, primitive right there.
Yeah, you guys working with checked on that, right? Or
Yeah.
you're
So
built on checked?
we built an entire modular DID backend. So digital identity with all of the variables within that built using checked mainnet. And that's all live in the Aeonix framework and also functions across the entire Dragon Labs ecosystem. So you have one singular digital identity container that tracks all of your progress, your achievements, your addresses and assets, and everything that is related to your profile without actually storing that information and still allowing you to have peer-to-peer interactions. So an example, like what your question, what could we do with this data? Well, with Aeonix, one of the things we do is after users have verified their social accounts, we allow them to opt into training and they can actually participate in decentralized AI training. That's something that we could integrate with this, and you could even introduce a reputation system. Many of you have probably seen the peer-to-peer +1, -1 reputation system in Telegram, where people can just, through peer-to-peer interactions, give each other these relative scores. Now, it's only one more step to add weighting to that. So if you had some type of like a trailing knowledge window to learn and summarize things, you could actually weight what the bot learns based off of the quality of contributors. So you have a bunch of, let's say low quality spam that comes in, or you're having like problems with raids or other types of like, information warfare type campaigns. That would solve this because a normal summary bot, just based off of the tools we've seen, won't wait for those types of things. So if you just have an aggregate, it's not going to be able to differentiate what is the quality information or not. So this system would solve for that right away. You could
Interesting.
even take existing channels. So like in the case of the Quant Network community, there's a channel called Quant Library, which is operated and curated by already existing approved quant admins. And those people essentially pick and choose the posts that are the most accurate and relevant to the ongoing discussion. We could actually have the bot passively learn through anything that is forwarded into particular groups. So you can have real-time training just from press releases and articles as they happen without adding in any really labor or infrastructure overheads.
That's insane, man. That is so cool. That is so cool. Thank you. Magnus, do you have anything to add to this?
Well, the fact that we built, when it comes to DIDs or like SSI, we built a backend on it, which would be possible to even make open source or public. We're still considering on that, but it works very well on all from creating, managing, and editing DIDs and the documents, issuing verified credentials and verifying them, and even establishing trust registries or trust chains, all on the backend. And it's all get checked.
Our goal with this was putting together frameworks that not only solve our problems, but also help this technology grow in adoption and help others build solutions that provide real value. So as Magnus is saying, yes, we could absolutely open source this entire package and even help facilitate the process of different projects or communities wanting to create their own digital identity systems. And I know this is a conversation that has kind of floated around in the quant community group, so that's kind of why I'm hitting on this. But yeah, if there is interest from the community, we could absolutely work toward putting some type of a community credential system together that gives you a way to actually track and verify like a progress and history and reputation without doxing addresses, without using something like an ENS system that is obviously introduced security issues, or without introducing the secret sharing mechanisms that we've talked about previously that create a lot of these issues. And when you have a way to track and order information like that and basically assign reputation that can be verified, any other events or measurements or contests, really anything you want to do is just much easier because you have better data that's more accurate now. So there could even be perhaps a revival of the QNT DAO. Who knows?
Oh yeah, that was the thing also. Yeah. Hey, you spoke about the ONIX token really briefly, and we agreed that this shouldn't be a token shill sell event, right? But how does the token work for your Aeonix, for your business?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And why? Because you can slap a token on anything and not adding any value whatsoever. But I believe you thought about this a little bit more.
There's two primary verticals that the ONIX token is solving for. First and foremost, it's the universal platform token for Aeonix network. All retail or public utilization of Aeonix network products, APIs, and interfaces is driven through our payment system. And our payment system only works one way. It converts ONIX tokens into a universal credit, compute credit, which is then managed across all of our applications. It's a one-way street. And essentially, it provides an incentive loop. I mean, we'll have to come back to these topics to go appropriately in depth, but essentially, our tokenomic frameworks that we've spent almost 2 years now putting together, testing and designing, we're showcasing how this works with the ONIX token. Because as we started to go through this process and tried to explain it, it's so esoteric that it was almost impossible to deliver clear understandings of the unique value proposition without it sounding like every other esoteric technical finance paper. And it simply comes down to a lack of standards, if you will. But truly, it does, because there is not a standardized way of measuring value. There's not a standardized way of comparing and contrasting these initiatives. So if I look at a token that is, let's say it's at 5 million market cap and it's 50 cents, and I look at another token that's at 500 million market cap that's $5, how do I compare the two? And any other number of variables? And the answer is you can't. When you compare things by price and by market cap, you're using incorrect measurements that are more substantial than if you tried to build like a rocket with imperial when you needed metric. I mean, it is that fundamental. So by essentially creating a framework that measures and balances all of this how it should be, not how we think it should be or an idea that sounds good, but by actual, and we can't stop with the puns today, by actual quantified research and analysis and a reverse engineering of the true first principles. So again, this isn't our opinion. This is just how these mechanisms work. So that's why the Aeonix token leverages the STE frameworks, because it allows us to showcase how this research works in a way that's much easier to understand. So to simplify that further, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Now, as to what this means, since the beginning, our goal was to create a sustainable and circular ecosystem that aligns productive energy with positive, verifiable impact. And that goal hasn't changed. In fact, I would say it's closer than ever, because while we had maybe a lot of exciting ideas and intentions initially, we were missing some of the key fundamental components that create these incentive loops. And if you guys were around for Rescue Pals and you saw the launch of that, you saw that we had put a tremendous amount of energy into building this ecosystem. I mean, thousands of hours into building our own game engine, putting together something that conceptually is very interesting. Because at the time it lacked the appropriate incentive pathways to align the behavior to those growth channels, it wasn't able to grow traction in the same way you see other initiatives in the space. And that's again why we led into the STE vertical, how that whole process went, and then why it's brought us back here now. So the ONIX token is again, it's the platform token. It has every integration capacity for the actual Aeonix platform, as well as subsidies for different types of like enterprise applications where they just pay essentially OTC for conversion for the APIs. But also it allows us to enter into discussions, whether it's from an academic perspective, whether it's from like a consortium and a working group perspective, or it's in just a particular business use case. It's much easier to reference things that have happened on chain and to demonstrate charts than it is to give a 20-page paper that looks just like every other 20-page mathematical paper.
Yeah, and it's on the smart chain, right? The Binance Smart Chain.
Yeah, so the ONIX token specifically is on the Binance Smart Chain. And if you're immediately thinking, oh, BSC, isn't it like the scam chain? You know, that's a valid thought coming from the way things were like 3, 4, 5 years ago. There were very minimal quality projects actually using that infrastructure. But if you've been following that ecosystem, it's actually grown and matured so much. And beyond the fact of it being truly one of the cheapest and fastest EVM options out there, it's also natively compatible with pretty much all of the major developmental tools you can have. And there's a lot of native support on the chain itself for different types of integrations. So it's really easy to work with for a developer. It's fast and it's quick and it's cheap and it doesn't have any scaling issues. So when you have a token like the ONIX token, where there's a tax routed to transactions, when you start to get into more complicated functions like staking or things, you're going to have in Ethereum or even like other EVM chains that have scaling issues, you could have transactions where the gas price is over the transaction value. And obviously that's not even remotely sustainable. So as with everything else, Dragon Labs has built, this is future proof. It's designed to be scalable. It's designed to handle volume without having any issues.
Right. Thank you. Oof, we're way over the 20 minutes already, I think. How long are we in, Tim? How long are we in?
We're 41 minutes in.
41 minutes. Right.
Yeah.
I want to suggest, unless we missed something very critical, to end it here for now.
Absolutely. Yeah. This has been a great introduction. I'll reiterate, this is an open call to the community now. Try it out. Let us know what works, what doesn't work. What would you like to see added in? Where can we make changes? And ultimately, how can we make this a better product for you guys?
Yeah. Make sure to go to the Dragon Labs Telegram for the feedback. That is the most interactive and way of centralized archiving of everything and all the information. The link is in the description, and it's also on the page chat.dragonlabs.digital/TQS. And yeah, it would help us a lot, Dragon Labs a lot, and also obviously all the people in the quant community. So thank you for that. Evan, Magnus, thank you guys so much for coming here and doing this work, because yeah, this is amazing. It truly is. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
I'm white again. Zoom has so much trouble with my green screen.
I was about to ask you. Like,
maybe you can write an algorithm because it's on green screen mode, and I just yeah.
Is your current appearance like showing that we are transparent here? Is it like, because you're completely transparent now? Is it like symbolic?
It's pretty interesting because if I turn the green screen off, you can see it like this, and it works. But now it's like on the regular background removal.
Don't get me started on verifiable AI agents.
But yeah, yes, I have a green screen, and then no, it works again. and you actually pay like 16 euros a month for this bullshit, right? Anyway, thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
Yeah, I would like to. I mean, I think it's a really good thing that you guys are building right now because it is really great to get an AI system that will answer questions from the community. Um, and also, like it can give us new insights of what is going on because we can all look at these documents and draw certain conclusions, but maybe a new system that can look into every single piece of information can provide us new insights. So I think it's a really great initiative and glad to well let you talk about it here on the show. I didn't add that much because I really felt like you guys should tell your story. And yeah, just happy to do this again. Also having you on the show, being with Jarno again, recording an episode. Feels
We're
good.
very,
Feels really
we're
good.
very grateful to be here with you too. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'll hazard one last piece of philosophy here for AI systems because it is so important. You may have actually heard this before, depending on what groups you're in, but Dragon Labs has a very strong belief that society is rapidly changing how we process information and how we come to decisions, ultimately how we determine trust in what is real. And as technology has improved, we've gained the ability to share information quicker, in particular in a peer-to-peer level. The ways that people come to their decisions, ultimately their values and beliefs, is changing too. And in part of that is this like alignment of value. If you have some type of like liquid alignment of value, i.e. a token, then you're automatically going to be aligned to the beliefs. But even bigger than that is that we believe that these AI systems will become essentially trust proxies. And if you look on X during a time of a political event or during a time of when something is happening very quickly that is uncertain, you'll see people almost exclusively tagging the Grok AI to do what is very simple evaluations. Like here's a one or two paragraph article that is actually very easy to understand, and people are still tagging it to get these different analysis and like summaries. And what this means is that we're going to be in 6, 12 plus months, we're going to be in a place where almost all questions and by extension decisions will be made through the extension of some type of a large language model based system. And again, not everything, but we're already there. If you look at how the major search engines are utilizing AI for answering questions in a conversational format, if you look at how tools like Perplexity and stuff are building in more of the research-based world, where you can have the actual source link contents and verified resources, everything is going, or most things will be decided upon and defined by these AI systems. And that means that the people who build them, the ideology behind the organization, the methodology behind the technology, and the actual technical architecture for the efficacy is what will determine truth. So truth is perhaps more relative than ever
Exactly.
before. And as we abstract into this layer of rhetoric further and further, our goal is that we can help build systems that can create trusted links between real world and actual truth and the ways that we interact with it. So on that, I will turn it back over and just invite you all to please take a moment, if you have it, test the tool out, let us know what you think, where you'd like to see this go, and if this is something that we should keep putting energy into. Because we would love to keep providing value and bringing tools to the community, but there has to be a level of interest to have it make sense. So if this is something we should keep doing, let us know, please.
Thanks, Evan. Thanks, Magnus. Tim, everybody, thank you.
Final thing before we quit, I'll also ask the AI about the roadmap that was just published. Maybe you want to have a quick look at it in this episode?
Yeah,
Or is
throw it
that,
out there.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'll put it because I think it's Quant News and we should cover Quant News on the Quamfy show. Just making a quick stamp. So I don't know how recent it is, but it was last edited a day ago. And is basically a little roadmap, or at least some kind of schedule on the docs.overledger.dev environment. And yeah, without reading all the text,
So,
people always want to
sorry,
look at dates. And
I have a naked baby here. I heard him tearing down his room earlier, and Liana just went up, and that was my distraction when you were talking, Evan, because she was holding the baby and a diaper in this hand, and the baby was naked, and now he came walking up to me like, like, oh, sorry.
You are
Anyway,
quite all right. Tim, if you'd like to test it out, you're welcome to. We have added a recent version of the doc, so this should be in here. However, Magnus, if this is not the case, please correct me.
That should be from yesterday. So if this was added yesterday, 1 day ago, maybe.
yeah, it should
Okay.
be. At least I put it in the Telegram. But this is indeed the roadmap that they also posted on one of their X threads, and yeah, this looks really good. Right, the pre-selected trusted node providers being completed, as some of you guys may have seen. Circle has magically came with an announcement today of an initiative that is literally just a copy paste of what Fusion does. They changed a few words, but even the asterisks and everything are just similar. So the pre-selected trusted node providers for the testnet stuff, that is for sure live, and within a small number of weeks and months, those things, man, it's going to be an exciting time.
Another really good example today, if you look back at the discussion in the Quant Network Community Lounge, you saw that there was some back and forth in trying to understand very technical differentiation between particular products, their architecture, and their application. And in that discussion, there was some friction. So if you think about this type of tool that we could build it into, it would be very simple to then just tag the bot in that discussion and ask it, hey, what is the technical difference between this approach and how does that vary from, Overledger, or how does this vary from Quant Fusion? And like actually have essentially speculative assisting tools without having the tools themselves do any speculation. Like it would just have answered your technical question as it applied.
Yeah, that'd be great because, well, I'm way out of my depth by now, and we discussed this in the last Quamfy show with Tim as well. Is that initially it was pretty, how do you say, pretty basic, right? It was a concept, and there was not really that much that appeared to be ready or implemented. And the more that gets implemented, the more specific every use case gets, and to an extent it becomes more clear what it does. But then when you get into the technical stuff, it becomes way more specific and nuanced. So yeah, having an AI just chew it out and then dissect it, that's going to be very useful for the survival of the Quamfy show. Anyway,
there's one thing I want to highlight here. It's the bring your own nodes for selected networks feature. And it reads, Quant Connect users will now be able to automatically connect nodes to Fusion, leveraging QNT staking and QNT rewards in order incentivize this.
Yeah, that's because this is
a small number of months.
That's because this is a legit document. Then they put actual typos and grammatical errors in there so that we know that this is real. So in order to incentivize this, they left the 2 out, so we know that this is not fake.
No.
That's the understanding that the team has with the community. Yeah,
so there's a lot of room for a future discussion. I think it'd be very interesting to increase the training data from the more recent information, add a lot more technical documentation, and then do a deep dive interactively. Actually ask questions in real time with technical context.
Yeah, man. Let's see if we can cook something like that up for the part 2. And I'm gonna drop the hammer. So thank you all so much for attending, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, for following, liking. Make sure to check out Dragon Labs. We put all their socials and all that good stuff in the description of this video. And yeah, give them some love, some support. Oh, and for the people that aren't aware that Evan is Hungarian Horntail, well, spoiler at the end of the show. Anyway, thank you guys so much, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.
Stay comfy.
Bye bye.